Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Knights of the Roundtable, the first one of 2019 for us at Excalibur Data Systems. And the topic today is going to be lessons learned on portal engagement. So my name is Tabitha Ishman, and I am the marketing manager at Excalibur Data Systems. And for those of you that are on the call that don't know us, we've been in operation since 1998 and have since become an authorized Shareable dealer in sales, training, and service. We are a boutique integrator specializing in ITSM and ESM solutions, and we've had the opportunity to work in every vertical and across all of North America, which allowed us to pride ourselves on being one of the leading and most experienced partners of Cheerwall, and we love being a thought leader in the Cheerwall community. So a few of the services that we do offer is process design, implementation, automation, maturity assessment, strategy and road mapping, ongoing consulting, staff augmentation, training, integrations, self-service portal design, BRM solutions, analytics and dashboards, and customized solutions. And we work with a great team of partners such as Sharewell, Bomgar, CG4 Asset Tracking, Comaround, Device42, Firescope, Solaritus BRM, and Talend. We do have two headquarters, one in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, and the other in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if you have any questions after the webinar today or any questions at all about Excalibur, you can email info@excaliburdata.com. And just a few reminders, going forward, I will be unmuting the line, so you're encouraged to interact with the presenters during the presentation today. It's going to be kind of an open forum for everyone. So first of all, with our Shareable product update, we do have Rob Gogan, President of Excalibur Data Systems Canada, here with us to talk to you. So Rob, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Hi, everybody. First, a few things before we get on to the lessons learned around Portal and stuff like that before we have our guest speakers come in and talk. I wanted to just give you guys a little update on some of the new and exciting things that are happening with Cheerwall. Recently, Cheerwall released CSM 9.5.3 maintenance release. There are approximately 12 fixes that are listed in the release notes. And any time you guys want to know release notes and what fixes are in which updates and stuff like that, you can always go to help.cheerwall.com. The release notes here are, and I put the breadcrumb trail down there, home, Cheerwall service management, CSM 9.5 release notes, and you can follow that down there. And you can find the fix list, and these are some of the fixes that were brought into play in the latest release for 5.3. You can go ahead, Tabitha, go to the next slide. All right. So also what's exciting is that 9.6 is right around the corner. 9.6, from what I've been told, is scheduled to be released sometime in June or July. It might be sooner, but it's expected to be in around that time frame. But Cheerwall has already gone through and go back one. Cheerwall has already gone through and started releasing what's coming in 9.6, and you can also find that on the website help.cheerwall.com. A few important things that I do want to mention about 9.6 that they have made some changes that will impact most likely everyone is they now require .NET Framework 4.7.2 minimum for 9.6. And they've also deprecated TCP connections. They're no longer supported. So with anyone out there using the TCP connection for your client, that's legacy configuration will no longer be supported. And everyone should be moving over to HTTP during their upgrade process. Cheerwall has gone forth and actually put a section on the help.cheerwall.com for the upgrade process specifically for 9.6 and stepping you through the processes in order to do that upgrade, because it is going to impact quite a few people. in terms of, because a lot of people out there using legacy systems are all using TCP connections, because that was basically the standard from back in the day, so to speak. And that's definitely something that is going to take into consideration. Also, .NET Framework 4.7.2 is an absolute minimum, and there'll be quite a few people that'll have to do probably deploy the .NET Framework onto their networks to get their client machines up to that particular version. Okay, so other than the big, the back end type of stuff, one of the things that Cheerwall has done is they've revised their content as well as put some new features in there, and I'm only going to highlight a few of them. You can get the entire feature list if you go to help.cheerwall.com. So Tab, if you want to go to the next slide. For anyone who was at the global conference, you'll remember that they had the hackathon and they had the log viewer. Well, guess what? That is coming in this next version. You will now be able to check your logs in the admin client. If you are a SaaS customer, you do have to contact support for them to set that up on the SaaS environment for you to gain access to them. However, when you do the upgrade to a 9.6 platform, you will now have the ability to go in and do the log viewer. So no longer for SaaS customers do you have to call support to get them to check your log files. You can do it yourself, which is very exciting. Another feature that they're bringing in, next slide, is they're actually going to allow you to upload and download multiple file attachments at the same time now. You'll have the ability to upload a group of files and download a group of files all simultaneously. That's a really nice feature that they've added. I believe came out of the Idea Station, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a fantastic feature they're bringing in. Also, you ready for this? Improvements in portability through blueprints and maps. They have finally given us the ability to include roles and security groups, along with several other items there as you see listed, as part of your map or blueprint deployment. So no longer, if you're moving content from one environment to the other, do you have to manually go in and actually redo your security groups and roles. You're able to now add those to a map and port those over into the other environment, which is very exciting for anyone who's had to deal with the nightmare of trying to get security groups and stuff like that all lined up. So next slide. Another interesting thing, especially for those who are MSPs or thinking about wanting to multi-tenant your environment, is there's a new link called Convert to Group Object. You can now take any business object, in this example, the incident object, convert it to a group object now, where you'll be able to actually have multiple different incident forms, multiple different incident objects inside an incident group object, allowing you, for any of you who are an MSP or in a multi-tenant situation, to actually have physical incident objects that differ from one another depending on the circumstance or situation, such as, say, individual customers may have different incident objects depending on their processes and so on and so forth for an MSP. But it is now easily done by a simple click of a button on an object inside of the blueprint. Prior to this, in order to do this, it required you to go into the def editor and do a bunch of magic in there in order to get that to work. However, now they have actually put that functionality directly within inside your blueprint, your ability to convert one over to a group object. Next slide. There we go. New features include new content. Now, this one is going to be the big thing that's going to stir up the pot, is that all new content for out of the box includes things like change and incident. Here's a couple screenshots here. The screenshots you can also see on the help.cheerwall.com site. These are the two screens for incident and change. As you can see, completely different out of the box look and feel. This was the result of them doing tons of testing, as some of you have obviously heard about them employing Frog to come in and doing scientific testing about following eyes and all that kind of stuff like that. They have started to release some of that content, and in 9.6 out of the box content is going to reflect a lot of those changes in the way things flow and process and so on and so forth. You can go ahead to the next slide, Tab. Including things like journals, things like customer internal. All these objects have a new face, a new look, a new feel in terms of how they function and how they operate. Next slide, Tabitha. All the CIs inside the CI group were also updated. They include computer all the way down through telephony. So all of them have a new face or a new look to them. And next slide. As well as the dashboards. The dashboards have been given a little bit of a refresh on terms of look, feel, coloring, schema, so on and so forth. And that's all that's been reworked and redone. And so that's going to be coming out in the new 9.6. And before you guys ask, a lot of people ask, is there an upgrade path? How do I go from my old content to the new content? I really like this, I really like that. Cheerwall hasn't released anything formal about how they're going to bring that into play, or if they're going to be offering options. But of course, as you all know, moving to 9.6 gives you the features and functionality. And from that, you can go ahead and manually build a lot of this content out if you want to. So that's all I really have to say about stuff coming in, new features, that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty exciting time. All of this will be out in plenty of time and for the Clear conference down in Nashville. Hopefully everybody can get an opportunity to go. And yeah, so on to today's webinar. Today's webinar is about lessons learned specific about the self-service portal. Self-service portal, it's interesting because a lot of times when we look at Cheerwall, we have to look at it one of two ways. We have to look at the people that use Cheerwall that are service delivery people that are delivering the services. And we also have to look at the other side, the service where the consumers of that service that are being delivered. And so self-service portal really helps us address the people who consume the services and how we interact with them and how we digest their feedback, their information, and a lot of how we help us manage the intake or the digestion of service requests as well as incidents related to particular services into our IT environment. So what I like to do is I like to introduce everybody to Ray Johnson. You can advance the slide there. He's the Senior Manager, IT Service Management Office at UPMC. As well, after Ray, Richie Ritter is going to speak to us. A lot of you may know Richie. He's the oldest Cheerwall customer on the planet, I believe, and from Western Carolina University. And both of them are going to talk about their experiences with their self-service portal and their evolution. So I'll just hand it over to Ray.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and change screens with you, Ray.
Okay.
There you go, and now you have access to share your screen with us.
All right, I am starting to do so. All right, I have a few screens. The system's not telling me which screen is being shared. Are you able to see any of the screens?
Yeah, I can see the team's dashboard with the Shareable portal and the printer and the UPMC access.
Okay, perfect. That is the screen. Okay, so as I go through the portal that we use here at UPMC, I'm hoping that we have free flow of information. If there are any questions about what approach we took or what we were thinking or why we decided to take one course versus another, feel free to chime in. I'm going to jump into the portal, or what we call our UPMC Cheerwall portal. We'll give it a moment to open up. All right, are you able to see the portal? It should say IT Service Portal at the top.
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is the portal. This is the IT portal that we use here at UPMC. We have approximately 87,000 staff members who have the ability to use the portal. Not every one of the job roles have a need to use the portal, but we have a majority of that staff using the portal. We provide a host of IT services to all of our employees. And what I'll do first is I'll go through the different components, the different areas of the portal, and talk through why we have them and some of our thought process behind it. I don't want the takeaway from this presentation to be that this is a model portal. For us, it is not. We do have a project that we plan to start later this summer, early fall, to revamp portions of the portal to make it better and to make it align with our user experience vision a little more. But the portal that we have here now, a few components of the portal. We have initiate chat. This allows a person coming in to initiate a chat with the help desk. So if we have first level triage, if we have a question from an end user to first level, we're able to use this section. And I'll click it just so that you see what happens. At this point, we kick off into a live chat with an actual person. So we're able to trigger that sort of activity from the IT portal. We have a dashboard. The dashboard provides the end user with a series of things. Depending on the role of the person coming into the portal, they may have certain approvals to make. There are certain activities and workflows that require approvals. If you think of requesting software, for example, a software request will often have the need for a manager approval. So if you're a manager coming into the portal, you have a listing of the approvals that you can make. Things like your the open incidents, the closed incidents, the devices that are associated with the person. I'll click on this one and we can see that I have a computer. It happens to be the computer that I'm using now. So I'm able to click into this to get a little more information about the computer that's associated to me. Active and historical orders. So as I go through some of the order workflows, I'm able to save the orders or even view my historical orders. Same with my cart. I'm able to view what's in my cart and also to take a look at my profile as it exists in Cheerwall. From there, we have the service cart. I don't think the service cart is new to anyone. I won't go into very many details around the service cart. And then we have helpful links. And the helpful links section basically is a collection of the different portals that we have here at UPMC. We have 3 of them really. We have what we call Infonet, MyHub, and IMS. And this really serves as just a trigger point to launch any of those additional portals that we have. In one of our projects, starting later in the fall, is potentially to bring one or more of our different portals together. And I don't know if Cheerwall yet will be the portal that brings everything together to create a single experience for the end user. But as of today, the experience that our end users have are somewhat disjointed by the way of navigating through multiple portals, Infonet, MyHub, IMS, and the IT service portal. If you take a look toward the top right, we have my profile, so my information. So this is information that we pull from 2 systems. We have an identity management system and we have Active Directory. So we collect information from both, and we have that information available within Cheerwall. And then we have the avatar that comes from Active Directory, but is stored within Cheerwall. So we're able to make use of the avatar in the portal. All right, let's see. We have the helpful links. It's just a rehash of some of what we have at the top. So the helpful links that we have at the top, we also have at the bottom. The contact us is pretty boilerplate, a way to contact the help desk and chat with the help desk or the service desk. And then we have a marquee of active issues, and we're able to control that by way of discussions within Cheerwall that's under the control of our operations center. The main main part of the portal, though, is what you see in the middle. We have a listing of services, and the 6 services really map to 6 of our top level services within Cheerwall. So if you think of creating an incident ticket or a change ticket or a request type of a ticket, these are the top level services that we have, and they drive our classifications for ticketing. So we took that approach when we put together the portal. So we have application services, data communication and networking, IT infrastructure, PC support and desktop services, print services, and voice and telecommunication services. And then underneath that, we have the ability to search the knowledge base within Cheerwall. So I'm going to go through a few of these just to show you some of what what we're able to do within each of the services. I'll start with voice and telecommunication. So I'll click on that little box right there. And what you see basically is a Cheerwall form, a portal form. And we went through a series of iterations when putting together the form. We initially started with having all of the necessary information up front, present it to the end user, and that turned out to be a bit overwhelming. So we took the approach where we make certain information available, and depending on the answers to certain questions or fields that we have on the form, we have other items of the form that become active and become required for the end user. So most of our forms have a description, so I'll just type test in there. For this one, we have for telephone help, we have a service type. And here, within service type, we have a drop down of things that can be selected. So we're able to add a phone, fax, modem, or voicemail. So if I click on that, what we'll see is we have things relevant to that particular thing open up. So now we're able to ask for the type of line that's needed. We're able to get the username and the department of the person. One thing to note, many of our demographic type fields like department, we tie in to Cheerwall using the Active Directory and the identity management information. So I'm able to either search for a validated department, or I'm able to click on my department, which pulls back the information automatically, so that the system knows what department I have, my cost center, and my business unit. So as we go through different parts of the request that deal with the demographics of the person, since we already have that information, there's no need for the requester to go through and type that information again. Same with location. Location for us happens to be a challenge because we have buildings throughout Western Pennsylvania and moving into Eastern Pennsylvania and further eastward. So we're constantly battling the location dilemma. But we do have a good location workflow where we're onboarding locations and making those locations available to the portal so people have access to them. So I'm going to go out of this particular request. So I'm not going to save this one. I'll go into a different request. We'll go into PC support and desktop services. So within PC support and desktop services, we have a branch between issue and request. We're able to allow the end user to indicate that they're having an issue with their PC or a kiosk, or that they need something related to their PC or some media services. And we also include requesting of software in this area of the portal. We do have 2 types of what you can think of software. We have end user software, which this item represents, but we also have what we call enterprise software. Enterprise software would be our medical record system, for example, which would be different than requesting an instance of Adobe Reader or user-based software request. I'll click on the request software so that you can see what what we look for when we have users request software. Again, we have the description. We're able to put in a description, but for this, we need specific information about the user or the requester along with their computer. And the computer is important because most of our software provisioning is not done in person. We have remote installations of most of the software that we deploy. So we need the computer information. So if you look at the computer field in particular here, we have we make heavy use of our CMDB. So all of our computers are in the CMDB, and we have information related to the computers in the CMDB. We have a little over 100,000 computers, and for each of those computers, we have where the computer's home base is, who the user of that computer is, and other information about the computer. So we're able to keep track of it. So this is another demographic type field. So Cheerwall does know what computers I own. So I'm able to simply click on my computers, and Cheerwall will present to me a listing of my computer. I happen to have only one, which is surprising because I used to have like 1,000 of them, but I'm able to select that one. We also give the users an out. If the computer is not listed, we have a selection for the computer isn't listed, so the user is still able to get through the request. So I just click on my known computer, so it brings back the computer and the serial number of the computer. That information is important to PC support as they go to fulfill the request. Location and address information, I'm not going to fill that out now, but the user would be able to fill that out. The user is also asked to provide a justification for the software. Most of what we see is needed to do my job. That's the type of justification. And then we have a listing of software that UPMC provides and a cost of each software item. So the user is able to search through our catalog of software, but this list provides a sample so that you can see. So we start with Adobe. So we have the product type, the product, the category of the product, the cost, and description of the product. So I'm able to add something there. And I can add and remove as much software as I need. This particular request, once it's filled out and submitted, the request does not go to a provisioning team yet. There's an email that goes out to the requester's manager, unless the requester happens to be a manager. But in general, the requester's manager gets an email with the ability to approve or deny that request on behalf of their employee. If the approval is made, then we have further escalation within the workflow. We would have an assignment to either PC support if we know that if it's open source or public software that we don't need to purchase, or if it's purchase or software that we need to purchase within the workflow, we would have a task initiated to the team that would go and purchase the software, and then kick off an additional task after the software has been purchased to PC support for provisioning. And we also capture any relevant keys, installation keys, and we keep that information in Cheerwall too, and have that information associated with the requester, so that and that begins the software lifecycle. If this person, if the requester happens to leave UPMC, we know immediately the licenses that were purchased for that person, and we know what licenses can be pulled back into a pool for others to use, or if those licenses can be turned back in and retired. Any questions so far?
I guess I just wanted to say that I did unmute all of the lines, so you just have to unmute yourself specifically if you'd like to ask a question.
Okay, let's see, we have IT infrastructure type requests. So IT infrastructure requests, these are generally not requests for an end user. These are requests that one infrastructure team makes to, or application team makes to another infrastructure team. If you think of a server request, for example, a server to support an application, this is where that happens. If we need to build a server, if we need to build a website, if we need a new department file share created, or if we need F5 load balancing for an application, this is the area for all of that to occur. So this is more of our business to business page. I'll take you through one of them. We have Windows Server requests. So it's in the when we first open up the form, it's pretty simple, but I can assure you that the form is not simple. For new app. So I'm requesting a server for a new application. What's the request type? For this particular request, we can request the Windows Server Windows Server resources. So this would mean that we already have a server and we just need additional memory or RAM or what have you for that server. Or we're requesting a new Windows SQL server, which means we're actually requesting two things. We're requesting a server and we're requesting a SQL database. So I'll take you through just the Windows Server request. So if I select Windows Server, we have when the implementation date is when we want that server, the existing application and how the project is funded. So two things that we require for infrastructure type requests. One being, there has to be an enterprise application that's associated with the server. In other words, we can't request a server where there's not an application yet. And if we don't have an application, we have an application onboarding process that needs to occur so that we have appropriate governance around application management for our enterprise. We have approximately 1,400 enterprise applications, and this is a choke point that we put into this workflow intentionally so that we don't have orphaned servers without a parent application. So I'm able to select an application. I'll pick, since Cheerwall is near and dear to me, I'll pick Cheerwall. We have a few things associated with Cheerwall. So we have a CG4 instance. We actually have two Cheerwall instances of Cheerwall for one of our smaller hospitals, and then we have Cheerwall Enterprise. I'll select that. So that allows me to see some additional information about Cheerwall, the application, who the support team is, the line of business for that application, and the cost center for that application. And then we have how is the project funded. How is the project funded? This is a link to our project and portfolio management system where we have all of our projects cataloged. So if requesting a server, there will be a dollar spend amount associated with this request, and that dollar amount will be associated and decremented from whatever project we associate this request to. So I'll select one just to get through that requirement. The primary contact for this server, and that's the primary contact is one of the people associated with the team that supports the application. So these are the people that are associated with this particular team that supports Cheerwall. So in essence, this is my team. So we're able to make any of those people the primary contact for this server as it's built and provisioned. We have a request, can the server be virtualized? More often than not, our servers are virtualized. And then we have additional information that we need. Once we answer that question, for the requester to fill out. I'm not going to fill out all of this information, but what AD group is going to be the admin for the server environment. Is the server going to be placed into development, DR, production stage on that list? The function of the server, this is important for us because this determines where the server will live within our network. If it's an application server versus a file, hybrid, or web server. And then, actually, I'll fill out some of this stuff so that you can see something that happens. Server function, I'll call it an application server. And as I selected application server, notice that something opens up here. We have a new item that opens up. I'll get to this in just a moment, but know that we have a new field that pops up. We have the version of the server, and if the size of the server that we're requesting. And then if the server requires a new data drive, and I'm going to put a note to that right now. But what you see here, the sample server name. So Cheerwall has the responsibility within the server lifecycle to create the name of the server that will be provisioned. So our server provisioning is almost completely automated. So we have a handoff between Cheerwall and VMware to create the server and hand that server off to the customer, and then to have Cheerwall communicate back to the customer that the server's been provisioned and what information, like server name, has been created, and then an automated update to the CMDB so that the CMDB can keep track of the server name, and we can start to attribute these data elements to the server itself as it begins its life cycle. So the server, Cheerwall keeps track of the functions, so the application, how many application servers are associated with an application, and it keeps track of the number of servers that are out there. So we would have an increment of the number of application servers. So if I requested 2 of these, we may see that the next server is AP2, AP3, AP4, and we keep track of that by way of referencing the number of servers for this application from the CMDB. So I'm not going to submit this, but as I fill out information, we also see the estimated monthly cost of this server come to life, and this information is shared with our financial systems so that we're able to keep track of the total cost of ownership for the applications that the servers are associated with. So if I were to add additional data drives, and I added 20 gig, and I only need one of them, and I'll say 30. Once I submit this and once it's out after approval, this information, the cost per gig, is also factored into the estimated monthly cost of the server. So we're able to integrate our portal into request management, and then have request management serve as the parent or the trigger of the various workflows within configuration management and aspects of financial management. So I'm not going to submit this request, but I'll go back to IT infrastructure. So many of our IT requests, although they appear to be simple, they oftentimes trigger complex workflows, lifecycle workflows that follow many different branches, but that's all controlled through our portal. So I'm going to click home. And at this point, are there any questions about the portal, about what we're doing? I'm not going to go through any of the other services, but in a nutshell, that's what we have. The portal, in my opinion, the front page of the portal is fine. Once we get past the front page, from a visual standpoint, we can do much better. And I think as we get into managing the forms of the different requests, we can do much better as well to broaden and enhance the end user experience within the portal.
Well, that was perfect, Ray, though. Thank you. Is there
Oh,
any additional questions for him?
Yeah, hey, this is Neil B. Kraft from WMS, and how you doing, Ray?
hey, good. How are you?
Not too bad. You guys have a nice site there. Been admiring it while you've been showing it off. I was kind of wondering though, do you guys mostly take your tickets in this way, or are you doing a combination of help desk and this?
Yeah, it's a combination. We do
Okay.
get several tickets in, especially for PC support related issues. We do also have a few integrations. We have other portals out there, and we have integrations with Cheerwall, so we're taking in tickets that way, and we're taking in tickets through the service desks, of course. But we have a few other channels as well. We have our chat, and we also have an integration between an automated voice system, which converts voice into WAV files and then attaches those WAV files to tickets and assigns the tickets out appropriately.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, when you're dealing with the help desk, about how many people do you have on help desk dealing with this?
I think we have approximately 35 people at the help desk.
Oh, okay, cool,
That's
cool.
our corporate help desk. We do have, as we acquire additional hospitals, we have satellite help desks as well, but those are really 1 and 2 person type help desks.
Oh, okay, okay. And do you utilize Bomgar for your chat?
We don't. I forget the name of the system. It's not Bomgar though.
Oh, okay, okay. Um,
It's a
and
Cisco
what?
system.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you. Thank you. Um, and I had one other question I was going to ask you really quick. The adoption rate, I'd say, phone call versus this portal. What would you see? What would you say is your kind of your intake?
We were challenged with that, and we were
Mhm.
challenged because our end users, they were pretty much exhausted with portals. This was yet another portal, and to have an expectation for people to go to this portal to do anything was probably asking too much. So the approach that we took, we started with PC support. We knew that PC support type services, it's important, and if we made that the only way for a person to request PC support services, that would be a natural way to funnel people into the portal and to get uptake and acceptance of the portal. So that's the approach that we took. So PC
Okay,
support was the first service that we created, and the only way to get software or to get a new PC, for example, is to go through this portal.
gotcha, gotcha. And do you utilize any sort of SCCM integration for your CMDB?
No, we have CAM with Cheerwall Asset Management
Gotcha,
that
gotcha.
we do. We're looking at supplementing some of the information from CAM with SCCM.
Okay. Um, I know I'm like a question machine. Um, what's your content version and what's your app version?
Our app version, we're running 8.3.2 right now. We have plans
Okay,
to upgrade to 9.5.3 in July.
okay.
And what was the other question?
What was your content version you started out on?
Of Cheerwall itself, I think it was the last version in the 7.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, cool. Thanks. Sorry for so many questions there.
Oh, no, no problem at all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, Ray, I'm Richie. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter.
Sure.
So you can share your screen with us when you're ready.
Yeah. Let's see. So our content version is probably very mixed bag, and our app version we're currently on 9.4. Let me pull up. Actually, sorry, I have a few other work things open.
Hey, Richie, while you're looking through that up,
hmm
the content version, what do you mean by the content version?
Content version is kind of like, usually it's what your content is based on. So our original base was 3.0. A lot of our design was based on maybe one of the 4.6 releases. There were several of them, I think.
I see. Okay.
So kind of like what your content look is based on. If we pulled up, the various versions of Cheerwall, you'd see some pretty different looks.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
I can see it.
Yeah, cool. I didn't know if I need to make it bigger, smaller, anything like that. So this is our current self-service. It's pretty simple. It's based on one of the more recent ones that Cheerwall was playing around with. We have been just recently working on also testing out the more multi-sized type of things. So that would be our main site there. And if we were going to say, look at it as a, let me change it over to a iPhone, then it should resize. And so, that's they're not responsive per se, but what do they call it? Reactive design. So that way, people on mobile can see it and get to things. But I'll put it back to the regular one. So basically ours is based around these pretty simple things here, which you get help, it just takes you straight into doing an incident. Browse services takes you through the service catalog. Search for answers, that's our knowledge base. And it'll have, some things that we've marked as popular articles for that type. And then my assets actually has the assets that belong to me and a few things to do with those. And if they go into those assets, they have some different things they can do, such as surplus. They can create a ticket based on that if they want to, based on that. Or they can just, surplus that item. They can fill out a change form that says that item's moving, things like that. Things that we're trying to track. We have a couple different things up here. Some of them are kind of legacy from older times. So like they basically match up with these buttons down here. New IT project would actually be just a certain, taking you into a certain specific. So just creating a ticket or incident, basically. We call our incidents iTickets because people like the I but didn't like the incidents had different things. So if I refer to them as that's what I'm talking about. If somebody goes here, it will say, hey, you should put this in with the service catalog and not just put in a very simple ticket. Because if they go through the service catalog, then they have the option to get a specific, just like anything else. So if they're putting in repair service for a phone specific, they're going to get information that has to do with that specific. If they're putting in a printing ticket, which is the same as going through the service catalog, it's just a quicker way to get there. So we do have those specifics defined, pretty much. But the main things people do are right there. We have the problems there. We have contact help desk. We have get help in person, et cetera, et cetera. So I unfortunately, since Cheerwall is just adding now the ability to get some more information out of how people use the portal. It's one of the 9.6 things, I believe. Being able to add some analytics. We don't really know what parts of it people use so much. I did pull some just a quick thing here that shows where our intake is for tickets. So our intake for self-service is there. It's pretty small. This is throughout last year. You can see it started around 11. Towards the end of the year, it was up to about a quarter. So The interesting thing is right here is when it sort of starts going up is when we changed our service catalog the last time. So that was when we introduced a new methodology for our service catalog. And it's definitely organized a little more toward on the user side. We've always looked at it as from our user view, but this one was even more so based on how people might use those services. Just asking for software training, things like that. And it does seem to have increased the usage, surprisingly. Phone usage doesn't really seem to have changed at all. It's pretty much, it stays between 30 and 40 all the time. I guess maybe email usage went down some. This is email down here. A couple other things are like e-requests that are pretty much automated requests that come into Cheerwall. This is basically walk-ups up here, technology commons. But yeah, we're trying to get more people to use it. It's a struggle for us. People are very used to calling on the phone. As you can see, that's still the biggest way people use it. One thing that we found that helped people a lot with ours is if we want them to get to a certain spot to submit a ticket so it has the correct specifics and everything. A lot of times we take people directly into it from wherever they are. So if I go into this is our main portal for the university, say, if somebody wants to give feedback, that's actually going to open a certain type of feedback in Cheerwall, but it takes them directly into that specific thing that they need to fill out in that case, which is this site feedback. So if that's from there, if they're in a different system and they hit feedback, it would take them directly to feedback on that system. And we do the same thing for support in a lot of places. So if somebody's wanting to submit a ticket and they're in a system and they're asking for help on that system, a lot of times it will go ahead and just drop them right into the specific that they need to fill out for that system. And that's been very helpful for us, not having to tell people to go into help, go onto that site and then go through and find the one they need. Instead, they're pretty much dropped right into what they need to fill out. Any questions about those parts?
Yeah, I had a question about your action catalog.
Yeah.
I noticed that are you using cards with search?
So action catalog, this is actually a thing just for your service catalog. This type of action catalog. It's not cards, it's actually a service catalog. And
Okay.
it has this drill down. Is it called cards? I'd have to look. It's been too long since I looked at it.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you
the new
remember?
card with search.
Yeah, cards with search. I can look at it real quick.
Yeah, Richie, it's the new one.
Yeah, the new one. I just couldn't remember what the name of it was. Is that cards with search? That's what it is?
Yeah, even though it conflicts with the old card view.
Yeah. So it's an action catalog, and it's the display type is cards with search. Yeah. And you can customize it somewhat. We did customize it some with CSS, basically just to get a few things like we wanted things to be a little bigger and
That's one of
to
the
show
struggles
more
we have
lines
right
of
now.
text. What's that?
That's one of the struggles we have right now. Is we're a cloud customer, so we're kind of struggling to get some of these CSS based changes made to make it a little more thematic.
Yeah, you can create you can create it as like if you copy that cards with search, but that's kind of a definition editor thing. And I went down that path first, and it was a little hard to get what I was looking for out of that. It was a lot easier to have access to the CSS. You can actually put CSS in that definition, and it will override. But sometimes it has some other unintended consequences.
Yeah, that was the struggle I read on forums for a lot of people who were wrestling with it.
Yeah. So we just made them wider and added more lines, things like that. There's still some things, it's somewhat limited. Hopefully, there's some more options they add, but
Thank you.
mm-hmm. I think a lot of people struggle for adoption. It's very hard unless you really force people there. But if the best we can, we try to have it as a message on help on our on our phone service. When the phones are busy, it says you can go here to get assistance and things like that. So
You'd mentioned earlier that you're doing some sort of a hot linking from different modules.
yeah,
Right.
basically just linking through a one step really is what we're doing. So I would make a one step that, like this for instance, is a one step submit a print ticket that just sets the category, subcategory, we call them major minor service. And I can call that one step from, let me pull up something here. If you wanted to call a one step like that, the older way of doing it, you can just put in launch one step and the one step ID. There are some newer ways. I was trying to find if I had that somewhere here. If you just look up deep linking, it shows you what all the URL commands are. So for those things that we really want to put people right into what they need to fill out, we just create a one step and call that one step from a short link. So we have a short linking service that we set up that we just put those in.
That is something I think we need to start leveraging on our side more often, because we have a lot of external people who don't necessarily need to have like a user record, who need to send us something occasionally.
Yeah,
So
we do some of that type of thing as well, where it's doing it more outside of the. This is very much inside the Cheerwall portal, so it's sending them to a specific place in that Cheerwall portal. We do have some things like that service that I was talking about, where we with it are just capturing it in an email and sending it into the system. So like this is actually that URL service I was talking about, the shortening service. So if somebody filled it out here, it would create a ticket directly, and they, it's just using their email to do it. I mean, it's using email to do it. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That way, the ticket does get put in as them. They just don't need to, they don't really need to log in to help per se to get there. I think it's really nice to get people to go to places for a one-stop kind of thing. It's just it's been pretty hard for us to get people from all the different services that we have to try to consolidate that. We do have a big project right now that I think we're in our fourth iteration of trying to start the project of getting our web presence kind of all more under one idea, if not under one type of like portal, under one kind of model of how things interlink and how people get to stuff. So.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
that's where we are too. We've probably been through 4 iterations too, and I don't think the 5th iteration is going to get us there. But I do think our 5th iteration, we're at least going to attempt to get the Cheerwall portal to present as the same experience as our other portal.
Yeah, definitely. Our last one, I think if I go to the guests, I can go to one of our older ones here. This is what it looked like before we redesigned it last. So it was pretty similar. It had the big boxes. more options, but just laid out a little differently. They wanted a more friendly look. So that's why we went with that much more friendly kind of interface.
Well, thank you, Richie. That was great. I think we are up with time for today. So if anyone had any last minute things they wanted to say, if not, I wanted to thank Richie and Ray for talking with us today about portal engagement, and for Rob being on the line and everyone else that was on the line as well.
Yeah,
Thank you for
you.
putting up with my questions.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you for being interactive. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you to our presenters, and we will see you at the next Nights of the Roundtable. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.